On this week's Extra-Ordi-Nerdy, we discuss aging out of anime, or are fandoms actually required to be all-inclusive?
.io.
Okay, so this week, this is Jay's week.
Yeah.
Jay is our token anime fan.
Yeah.
We've had very different experiences with anime.
Yeah.
Ask me about my first experience with anime, Jay.
What was your first experience with anime?
I was taking Japanese in high school because at that point in time, I live in Oklahoma and we still believed in the Cold War, and I thought if I learned Japanese, then I could possibly... I mean, they were going to buy everything, right? Max Headroom said so.
Yeah.
So... some guys were like, hey, you want to watch a cartoon? I'm like, yeah, I want to watch cartoons. It's in Japanese. You can translate it for us. Like, yeah, that sounds awesome. And then we're all just scooshed onto a couch, and they're all sitting there with their raging erections while we're watching tentacle porn. And I'm 14 years old and terrified. I just want to go home. It's and, you know, my poor mother, like, she's like, why don't you want to go hang out with these other people that's, you know, they speak Japanese, they're watching cartoons, it sounds 100% up your alley, and I don't even know how to explain to her what was on the TV.
People.
Yeah, so I actually dropped out of Japanese after 2 years because of hentai.
I can't say that I blame you. That's a very traumatizing way to be introduced
No one
into
could
anime.
ever hold that against you.
And so, I do get intellectually, it's more than that. There's a whole... we discussed in a different episode. You guys should go back and watch our exciting episode on Maslow's Hierarchy of Geeks. So we discussed in another episode how calling all of anime hentai is like calling all of American animation, ranging from The Simpsons and South Park to Adult Swim to Saturday morning cartoons, America, or whatever you want to call it, and painting it all with that same brush. It's not the same stuff. The stuff on Adult Swim is not the same as the stuff for kids on Saturday mornings.
It's not your Flintstones. You know?
Although I'm sure on DeviantArt there is some sort of crossover somewhere with
There.
that.
Rule 34.
Exactly. And so I try to approach anime that way, but I have trouble with it because again, that was my early experience, and I know lots of people, they're like, oh, you just watched the wrong tentacle porn. It's not all that rapey.
Some tentacles are more kind and gentle.
Apparently so. They'll tweak your nipples with fun and not, you know, it just,
Whisper sweet nothing.
Exactly. Or have Cthulhu in your ear whispering, you know, taunting, whatever. So tell us why I'm all wrong and that anime's awesome.
Huh. It's quite a task.
No pressure!
It's quite a task.
You have to speak for all of
One,
anime.
you have to completely eliminate hentai out of the equation. Anything pervy in any sort of nature. And it's hard.
Pun
It's
intended.
really it's really hard. There are shows out there, but there's, maybe with the exception of one that I can think of off the top of my head, there's a level of sexual nature, whether
It's a rigid line that just thrusts all the way
is,
into
because-
anime as a fandom.
Again
like I will
and
say,
again.
I will say right off the bat, one of my favorite shows is Ghost in the Shell, and it reads
Which
like
I'm pretty sure has no tentacle rape.
it has no tentacle rape. It's a cyberpunk. Think like Law and Order meets Blade Runner. You know, it's a lot like that. It's this future. This future dystopia with, you know, what do they call it?
Ponies.
No. It's like gutter speak or guttural, you know, where there's like a mixture of German, Japanese, and English, and we kind of have that now, but you know, like the way in Blade Runner, where it's almost like a running sentence of a bunch of different cultural words. And Ghost in the Shell kind of has a little bit of that, but then with that Law and Order feel to where like, you know, the Tokugawa government does this and this and this, and you see the whole the way the social structure, political structure affects this Section 9 organization and the way they go.
So you've got some grown-up stuff, is what we're saying.
Okay, yeah, but
And we've got some grown-up stuff. We've got some very grown-up stuff.
Yeah.
And then we've got some stuff that's obviously like Dragon Ball Z aimed at kids.
right.
So let's get to the aging out of anime portion of it, and then we'll wander back into the awesomeness of anime.
Okay.
I personally feel, and feel free to hate on me all you want in the comments, anime fans, that around 30 you start aging out of the fandom. And you're looking down the barrel of 30, dude, right?
Yeah.
And
with no signs of slowing down.
yeah, you know, the other consequence is worse.
Yeah.
So, because it is such a young fandom, and it brings in a lot of kids in their preteens and teens.
Yeah.
And so any anime, like if I go to an anime convention at this point in time, all anybody wants to know is if I've lost my son. Happens over and over, and it makes me feel creepy.
Yeah.
You know, like what am I doing there? And I've, as someone who grew up in science fiction conventions that were more cross-generational, just as a norm, because there just weren't that many of them back then, it feels very strange to go to some place that I feel like ought to be my people and my fans and realize, no, even as a lady, I'm creepy if I show up there. You go to these things. Sometimes, I hate to say, but you see like that guy with a beard that you could build a nest out of for half a dozen birds in, and a pot belly that you can actually like fit triplets, maybe quadruplets if he's been eating a couple extra cheeseburgers, and he wants to get a hug with all the preteen girls. And that gives those conventions a bad reputation. It makes me feel like they're a place that really should be kept for like younger people to hang out with people their own age. Am I wrong?
No, in a sense you are right. I mean, when people go there, you got to be on your best behavior, regardless of the things that you are into. Those people, I think, reasonably tend to be frowned upon.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't want... I mean, if you have a daughter that's going to these things, and anime does attract a lot of females.
Yeah.
And some of the local conventions we've gone to, you know, there's young females that like the young girl, I think she was like 16, 17, making anime bookmarks. I bought 20 of them. You know, they were incredible. And she was also making little anime hats and selling those. And she, you know, she's doing a really good job. But you don't want that guy hitting on her and doing creepy stuff just because they end up liking Azumanga Daioh, you know.
Now, out of curiosity, would you say that the way to stay in anime fandom after 30 is have kids of your own and take them to these conventions?
Yeah, definitely.
I hate to say, but even if you do have a beard that you could build a nest in, if you're carrying a baby, suddenly it's okay.
Yeah.
Rental baby services for anime. That's what we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen.
At least the baby will be warm with the beard.
That's true.
Yeah,
you can just nestle it all in there.
Borrow your neighbor's kid or something and...
Take your kid to a con day. Or take his kid to a con day.
Yeah.
I don't think you actually lease yours out, do you?
No.
You don't trust us is what you're saying?
No.
Not with that beard. You know who we're talking about.
And I hate to pick on guys for that. Like, in my case, it's not that it's creepy, it's just weird. Like, why are you here? Whereas with the guys, there is definitely that sexual overtone of like, okay, you're 45, what are you doing here? And that's unfortunate because I know plenty of people that got into anime like in the 90s when they were in junior high.
Yeah.
And now they're like, oh, but I love this and I still want to go. And like, dude, no.
Yeah, I think it's just the way certain conventions are set up. And a lot of them are geared towards YA. They're not really geared towards older 27 and up adults, you know. And
not that he's implying anything.
Yeah, but it's not like I'm going there so, you know, I can fangirl over the next, you know, girly anime or the fan service stuff or anything like that. I think it generally is relegated to the younger audience and people who, in high school, having trouble identifying themselves through the social ladders there, you know, they find common ground in the animated stuff, and whether it's adult or kiddish in nature, it's something that they all share, and going to these conventions are just another venue to get out of the house and share their likes with each other, their common interests.
So as someone who, I completely agree. I feel like that's what conventions are in general. And any niche that you're into, 100% with that.
Right.
And it's great. I mean, it's so nice that you're not stuck with just the people that happen to have been born in the same neighborhood as you that go to your school.
Yeah.
Like, you make some friends with them, but it's also really nice to make friends with people you have actual interests in common with.
Right.
So what would you say as someone who's looking down that barrel of like, oh, in a few years I'm going to be considered creepy there? Do more mainstream conventions need to have anime paneling aimed at adults?
I think so. I think it, you know, you can give younger people, or maybe someone like myself or Prometheus here, we can give a perspective for those people by doing a panel. Like, you know, this is how I cope, you know, this is the things that I like, you know, being a father of one, coming on two, and sharing that love with them and not being a total creepo about it, or what to share and who to find common interest with, and how do you approach those people. And at the same time, if you want to keep going to these things, increase your level of involvement as you get older. Be more creative. Like the girl who's 17 and doing this is, to me it seemed more like a hobby. But who knows, in 10 years she's going to be making these T-shirts, and they could be licensed T-shirts, and makes a career out of it. And why not?
Or at least get an Etsy shop or something.
Yeah, an Etsy shop. And why not me? When I go to these conventions, open a booth and like, hey man, there's I like this weird creepy show that you like, but I make T-shirts and I want to make money off of this, and there's this venue of kids and younger people who will buy this stuff.
So do you feel like moving into like the pro side of things can preserve your longevity in a convention setting like that? So becoming a dealer, definitely a way to not be creepy because you're there to sell stuff. You have a purpose for being there. Well,
not only a dealer, but I think if your love's strong enough and you don't want to be that creeper guy, start promoting your own events and starting them out and get more people out there coming.
See, here's an area that I think is really weird with it, though. Most of these conventions were started by people that at the time were like right out of high school, right out of college.
Yeah.
And 10 years later, the convention's still there, and they're like, and now I'm 30, and everybody thinks it's creepy, but I've been organizing this for years.
Yeah.
Is it right to tell them, like, this is your niche fandom, but everybody else finds you a creeper now, so go find something else? Or should they try to evolve the conventions in different directions? Like, what can you do to make it not so creepy if you're over 30?
I think definitely, evolution, it's just a natural step to take, and it's hard to keep any one thing just on a concrete subject. You used to have your Star Wars conventions, or San Diego back in the day was just a comic convention.
Yeah.
Now it's there for movies and TV.
Comics are almost like this appendix thing.
It really
off
is.
On the
It
side.
really is. It's like
is that just involved reading?
It's the redheaded stepchild. So I think even with the anime conventions, they can still be they can grow to that potential.
They're super popular. The fascinating thing to me about anime conventions is, as far as regional conventions are concerned, not Dragon Con and Comic Con and things like that, that are still fan run. So not Wizard World, that's a corporate entity and whatnot.
Yeah.
This is where the growth area is. This is where you're seeing more new conventions pop up, is in anime than anything else.
Yeah.
But it's so weird because it's so exclusive. It's like, this is where all the young fans are, and no one else can show up. And on the one hand, I feel like it's okay to say, I want to be around people my own age who have a similar interest. On the other hand, when you run out of other regional conventions to do things at, people are like, well, that one's there. Surely I'll be welcome. I mean, it's a weird chicken and egg thing going on there, I think.
Yeah, it really is. I don't know where to go from here.
I would say it's kind of the thing where, you're saying like a lot of these conventions are geared towards, let's say, like teenagers, like younger kids. And, so basically the animes that they're into are, more young adults and stuff like that. But whereas...
Although by the time they're in their teens, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Like, they've got the internet,
Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, there are obviously the more mature ones. But it's like something like that, where it's like, okay, you're 30 years old. You'd probably would be the target audience for something like Berserk, as opposed to something like Naruto, which, obviously there's no crossover with the fans.
Yeah.
But in the same way that, like, video games, people that have been into anime since they were in high school or middle school, they've grown up, video games have grown up with them. Anime hasn't necessarily been that way. Because, there's always been that wide spectrum.
Yeah.
But I guess it still has that main appeal to younger audiences. So maybe with the conventions, the conventions have to grow up as well. So maybe they need to have, like, more panels with the creators. Kind of in the same way, like, a lot of comic conventions
That's not a bad idea. I think it's hard to get the creators in just because you have to fly from Japan and it's expensive.
Yeah.
And so
get the
it
American
keeps it
voice
more...
actors.
Yeah, that's actually completely reasonable. Something else that you said to tie in with that is... I completely forgot.
Well, I mentioned with the... I mentioned kind of
filmed live.
I mentioned like growing up with your fandom, like video games.
So when it comes to growing up with it, I think that today there's still this idea that you should grow out of being a geek, even though our biggest blockbuster movies are all kind of nerd and comic related and things like that. There's also this idea that you're gonna just grow up and give that stuff up eventually, and that's not the case for many, many fans. It is the case for some. And so do you think that anime is suffering particularly hard from that? From the idea, like, come on, at the very least, if you're not going to grow up and grow out of anime, grow into Star Wars, or that's your teenage fandom. Here's what you're supposed to do when you're a grown up.
Yeah,
I would say it kind of gets like. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like unfairly put on anime fans because if you look at just cartoons, like American cartoons in general, it's like obviously there's Adult Swim. Like you can find any 30-year-old guy and they'd be like, "Oh, I love Archer."
Yeah.
Archer doesn't even come on Cartoon Network. It's on FX, so it's just like it's a regular show like anything else.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly like socially acceptable. When it comes to anime, it's like, well, that's not okay. Even if the animes that you like are more mature and they're more intellectual, like I had mentioned before, like Graveyard of Fireflies.
Yeah.
No one's gonna take that. No one's gonna take like their 13-year-old kid to see that movie. I would hope.
Yeah, that was kind of the point I wanted to make with Ghost in the Shell, where you have these deep levels, the geopolitical nature of the show, and how it affects this small, little group of police. What do you call it? This group of officers brought together for one single purpose, but like the head detective wears a thong.
I love the fact, by the way, that he couldn't remember the names for officers and police since he works at a correctional institution.
Well, the group's called Section 9, and they're just small, like they're a force. They're a small force designed to tackle political threats and or people. It's kind of hard to explain. The first one's like the Laughing Man, which I won't spoil who that is.
They kind of deal with like terrorists.
He's a cyber hacker /
tying it back to aging out. Do you think that maybe what needs to happen is someone should start like the Curmudgeon's Anime Convention, or call it something that obviously implies I'm over a certain age. This isn't aimed at teenagers.
Yeah.
I think that you should do that. I think somebody out there who's into anime who's over 30 is like, damn it, I'm tired of going to these conventions and having people look at me like I'm a creeper. Start the Curmudgeon's Anime Convention. You will get a ton... I don't know. I'm pointing to them because they're present. But you'll get a ton of people that are still really into it. And it's okay at one of those to have, like, an adult line of paneling, probably.
I just have one thing to say on the subject of Ghost in the Shell. I think it's funny how that was the example that Jay used to say, like, this is a more adult one. But at the same time, he says the main character wears a thong. I think that kind of is the problem with the perception of anime. Where even when they do have more mature themes, and it's like, this is just a good, as well-written show as Law & Order, but they still have to have the fan service.
Yeah.
She can't just wear pants, and that's in the TV series version. In the movie series, like, she has an ability to, like, cloak herself. Mm-hmm. In order to get cloaked, she has to get completely naked.
Of course she
Which in the TV show is the opposite case. Like, they all actually have... tactical outfits that help cloak them, and her whole body being all completely cybernetic, robotic. The only thing organic is her ghost, or for other intents and purposes, is actually her soul. Anything that she's wearing is cloakable. I don't know if they changed that just because it's a TV show that they wanted to keep PG-13 or not, but I don't know why the movies couldn't have been that way either.
Yeah.
Well.
Well, anime fans, we would love to hear from you. Do you think there should be a Curmudgeon's Anime Convention? If so, tell us so in the comments. Do you think that I am completely off base with claiming that you age out of anime? And if you do think that, are you over 30? Tell us in the comments. We can't wait for your vitriol and hate to spill out to us.
Can't wait.
Date bayo!